Morning Core Community family, my name is Stephanie Lira and I am excited to bring you our February Core Community events. Most of these events will be taking place up at the Core Community Center, either in the main sanctuary, the lobby, or the children's building. If you have any questions about the different events, you can head on out to the info booth. Our volunteers will have more information about the events. You can also get information or register for events online or in our Core Community app. First off, we have our Tiny Tots ministry. This ministry meets once a month on the second Monday of the month. This ministry is for moms and their nursery and preschool aged children. Their next meeting will be on February the 10th from 9:30 to 11 a.m. This coming Tuesday, we have our Core Community Book Club. Book Club meets on the first Tuesday of the month, and this month's book is The Consolation of Philosophy. On the second Tuesdays, our men's discussion group meets out at Lewis & Holmes in Peyton from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. Wednesdays, we have our Midweek Madness. This is split up between our middle schoolers and high schoolers. High schoolers, your Midweek Madness is on the first and third Wednesdays, and middle schoolers, yours is on the second and fourth Wednesdays. On February the 6th, we'll be kicking off our next round of Thursday Things. This will happen from 6 o'clock to 7:30. We have a potluck from 6 o'clock to 6:30, followed by a discussion group. On February the 6th, our discussion will actually be a missions roundtable. And on February the 13th, we will be talking about the restoration movement. On Fridays, we have our women's Bible study from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock. And also for our ladies, we have our annual women's retreat coming up at Glen Erie Castle. That'll be March the 14th through the 16th. Registration does close on February 16th, so make sure if you are planning on going, you get registered for that. We do only have 7 spots left available. So again, make sure you register online or in the app for that. And finally, on February the 9th, we will have signups available for our Core Community Cornhole League. That'll be starting up on March the 4th and will be running for 6 weeks. Lots of different things coming up here at the Core. We are excited to spend some time with you outside of Sunday morning services. Again, if you have any questions about any of these events, make sure to swing by the information booth where our volunteers can help you out, or you can check out more details online or in our app. We look forward to seeing you soon.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my tomb till I met you. 'Cause when you called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Your mercy has saved my soul. Oh, my freedom is all that I know. The old me knew Jesus when I met you. 'Cause when you called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into needed rescue, my sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan. Now you call me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you call my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. You call my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into
I want to encourage you, if you're in K through 5th grade, Mr. Will's back there, you can go see him. He'll take you over next door. Otherwise, turn around, say hello to somebody, greet somebody new today. He's only 39% correct.
Well, I just want to say you guys are in for a great message today. I was here for the first service, and wow, what a great job you did. Thank you, Lord, for that. So my name is Dave Silva. I'm with Colorado Christian University. We are located in Lakewood and in the Colorado Springs area as well. And we've been in business for 110 years, 111 years now. So we're super excited about that. So I represent the College of Adult and Graduate Studies. So we have a partnership with Meridian Point Church. And that is anybody that wants to take a class with us on the bachelor side would be 20% off. Anybody that wants to do a master's degree would be 10% off. And then when I show up, I also come with a $1,000 event scholarship, which basically gives you $250 off for your first 4 classes that you would take with CCU. A lot of people ask, well, why CCU? What's different about CCU? Well, number one, we're geared for adult online learners. Anybody that wants to take one class at a time, every 5 weeks, can take our courses and do it from the comforts of their own home. They don't have to go to Lakewood. They don't have to go down to the Colorado Springs Center. They can just do everything right from the comforts of home and even work maybe during break, okay? And the last reason why we tell people why CCU, we have integration of faith and learning in every one of our classes. God is going to be right there with you. We're going to have a biblical perspective every single week. So, again, I want to thank you, leadership, for allowing me to be here, and wait till you get this great message. All right, thank you.
Good morning. It's Groundhog Day. The groundhog did see his... All right, we're not going to start that, all right? So I'll say... Wondering if anybody was going to buy it if I made you stand up and shake hands again if you do it. So it would have been good to see. A couple other things that are going on. One is we have a Super Bowl party we're going to have next Sunday. And so, I don't know why, but we're having one. As a Detroit fan, I wish people hated us as much as they hate these two teams. Kansas City fans, Eagles fans? Okay, a couple. Yeah, So we'll be having a Super Bowl party next week. Come on out, just spend some time together and just have some fun. Also want to let you know, if I didn't get a chance to say hi and introduce myself, I'll be in the back of the room when we're done. Would love to have you stop by there and just get a chance to say hi and introduce myself. And then also at 4 o'clock today at our house, for the next 4 weeks, we have what we call our Starting Point Life Group. It's a small group, meets at our house. We'll have kids, childcare there for you. If you have kids, let me know. We'll have somebody there for them. But it's Bill Murray's best movie. All right. Now, Bill Murray plays Bill Murray in every movie he's in. So, I mean, he does the same every time. But I would say it's better than Caddyshack. It is better than What About Bob? It's better than Ghostbusters. I'm going to say it's better than Ghostbusters. His appearance, though, in Zombieland, anybody see that? That is classic. It almost makes up for Garfield, which was unwatchable with that, okay? So upon rewatching it, I hadn't seen it in probably 20 years. I might put it in my top 10 movies of all time. There is so much to it. It's simple. It is charming. How many of you are those people that really get picky on time travel movies, trying to figure out exactly what's going on? Okay, it does that pretty good. It is just really good, and the messages in it are excellent. As a bonus, it has Chris Elliott in it. Chris Elliott is the cameraman in there. How many of you knew who he was? He used to be on David Letterman way back. That guy has 4 Emmys. For that alone, he should be admired. I don't know how that guy gets 4 Emmys. He got them for writing for Donnie. Just the opening shots, they said that Punxsutawney didn't look like Punxsutawney. That's not what it was supposed to look like. So they ended up shooting it in a small town of Woodstock, Illinois, because they said Woodstock looked more like Punxsutawney. I don't know how that works, but they said the square there looked more like it should have looked in Punxsutawney, so they filmed it in a whole different place. When I have done these at the movies messages, I've done them traditionally at Christmas. I've done it a few times at Valentine's Day, and I do them with the idea that the best movies touch on some part of the truth of God's design. That the movies we like best are the ones that get closest to those truths, and they illustrate parts of God's truth, either positively or negatively, and the more we connect with that, the more we like the movies. And this is one of those movies that connects in all kinds of ways with the real design and story of God. He has put that in us, and we recognize it when we see it, unconsciously or consciously. And so the best media are the ones that connect best with the design of God. And the reason I'm tempted to have Groundhog Day in my top 10 movies of all time is because whether the writer did it on purpose or not, if he did it on purpose, he is brilliant. But this movie touches on some really deep truths. How many of you, when I do these at the movies anymore, you try to guess what I'm going to talk about when you're watching them? All right? Yeah. And what will happen is, when you watch a movie and you're trying to find the meaning in them, it's curious how it changes. We watched it with our neighbors. They were here first service. We watched it with our neighbors on Friday night, and they came up with some really good stuff in that movie. Unfortunately, I had already written my message, so you're getting what I came up with, all right? But they said watching it this way is a whole different experience. If you don't know the story, the movie follows Pittsburgh weatherman Phil, who's played by Bill Murray, who is going to cover Groundhog Day for his station in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, and he finds himself trapped in a time loop in which he wakes every morning at 6 a.m. to relive Groundhog Day. If you don't know the movie, it follows Pittsburgh weatherman. We won't keep doing that, all right? Phil is the only one who recognizes that he is caught in a time loop. No one else realizes that they're reliving the day over and over. And even if Phil dies during Groundhog Day, he immediately wakes up unhurt and fully alive at 6 a.m. every day at Groundhog Day. No one knows how long he has gotten trapped in this time loop. The movie shows 38 distinct days that we get a glimpse of. Some have theorized for him to do everything he eventually does, he may be stuck for up to 1,000 days. The director has stated he thinks Phil was in the time loop. The first few times that he wakes up and he starts to realize what is going on, he freaks out. But eventually, he accepts the situation and he begins trying to adapt to what is happening to him. And the movie follows three very distinct sections. The first section is this: Phil finds appeal in living in Groundhog Day. There is an appeal to living in a world that has no consequences whatsoever. You can do whatever you want. And with no lasting consequences, Phil's good instincts don't take over, his bad instincts take over. And without consequences, he takes advantage of people, he seduces a woman under false pretenses, he punches the annoying guy, which we all kind of appreciated. That was kind of all right. He mocks, he belittles others, he robs an armored car, he takes money, buys vehicles, buys clothes, buys women. And we find that when Phil realizes there are no lasting consequences to anything he does for any of his behavior, his unrestrained nature is pretty nasty. It hits on a biblical truth. Our unrestrained natural instincts lead us to be sarcastic and belittling and at times even criminal. In the Bible, we have the world right before the great flood. People have ignored God and they've begun to think they can act however they want. There are going to be no consequences whatsoever for what they are doing. And what is the result of that? Does that make the world a better place? Do they start following their best instincts? Take a look at Genesis chapter 6. Genesis chapter 6, verses 5 and 6. So when people think there's no consequences, do they get better or do they get worse? Genesis 6, verses 5 and 6. The Lord observed the extent of human wickedness on the earth, and he saw that everything they thought or imagined was consistently and totally evil. So the Lord was sorry he had ever made them and put them on the earth. It broke his heart. When people started thinking there's no consequences, we can do whatever we want, and there will be no punishment, no judgment, no results of that, it says everybody becomes totally evil. So much so that God says, I am sorry I even created them, and he sends a flood to wipe us off the face of the earth. We get the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Genesis 18, verse 20. These cities begin to think they can do whatever they want. There will be no consequences. We're just going to live however we want. Genesis 18, verse 20. So the Lord told Abraham, I have heard a great outcry from Sodom and Gomorrah because their sin is so flagrant. I'm going down to see if their actions are as wicked as I have heard. If not, I want to know. God says they have become so wicked, so evil, they think they are never going to have consequences, that their deeds have risen to me, and I'm going to check this out. And Abraham says, God, if you find out there's only 10 good people, will you spare the cities? And God says, sure, if I find 10 good people, I will spare the city. But when angels go into the city looking like normal men, here's what they find. Genesis 19, 4 and 5. But before they retired for the night, all the men of Sodom, young and old, came from all over the city and surrounded the house. They shouted to Lot, where are the men who came to spend the night with you? Bring them out to us so we can have sex with them. No consequences. We become nasty, evil people. Genesis 19, 4 and 5. Oh, sorry, read that. Some kings I was almost Groundhog Day myself. That was terrible. All right? We get the idea of the kings in the Bible. And when they become king, they start thinking the law doesn't apply to them. They can do whatever they want. There will be no consequences. And so here's some of the things we see from the kings of Israel. 2 Kings 21:6 talks of King Manasseh. And it says this, Manasseh also sacrificed his own son in the fire. He practiced sorcery and divination, and he consulted with mediums and psychics. He did much that was evil in the Lord's sight, arousing his anger. We get more about him in verse 16. It says Manasseh also murdered many innocent people until Jerusalem was filled from one end to the other with innocent blood. This was in addition to the sin that he caused the people of Judah to commit, leading them to do evil in the Lord's sight. We get 2 Chronicles 21:4. A king named Jehoram. But when Jehoram had become solidly established as king, he killed all of his brothers and some other leaders of Judah. No consequences. Matthew 2:16. King Herod was furious when he realized that the wise men had outwitted him. He sent soldiers to kill all the boys in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old and older, based on the wise men's report of the star's first appearance. Kill all the baby boys under 2 years old. Why? Because I'm king. There are no consequences. I can do what I want. When left to our own devices with no thought to consequences, we don't tend to turn to our nobler instincts. We tend to become terrible, terrible, terrible people. Look at how people treat each other on social media when they think they are anonymous and they won't be held accountable for their words. The stuff people will say anonymously online that they would never say to your face because they think there's no consequences. Crime increases during power outages. When the power goes out, they bring on more staff because they go, oh, people are going to take advantage of this. When banks were deregulated in the 1980s, white-collar crime skyrocketed. We're not going to be held accountable. San Francisco saw a 40% increase in theft in 2022 following reduced prosecution of shoplifting. They had to shut down several of the stores and move out of the areas because people thought, I can do whatever I want. There's no consequences. And we become terrible. The town in the movie was lucky only one man knew there were no consequences for what he was doing on Groundhog Day, or this would not have been a comedy movie. This would have been a horror movie if everybody in the town realized there's no consequences. We like to think it would be great to have no consequences, to do whatever we want, eat whatever we want, say whatever we want. But the truth is, if everyone started doing what was right in their own eyes, thinking there would be no consequences, disaster follows. Both corporately as a society and as a group, but also as individuals. That becomes the second phase of the movie. The problem of living in Groundhog Day. At one point, Phil asked a man this. He says, what would you do if you were stuck in one place and every day was exactly the same and nothing you did mattered? See, here's what Phil finds. If there's no consequences to anything, there's also no purpose to anything. It is nice living like there's no tomorrow for a little while, but that becomes very, very empty. After not too many days, Phil runs out of things that he wants to do. What good is money if you can have all you want? Get it for free anytime you want it. He gets tired of eating as much as he can. The girl who was easy doesn't stay interesting to him very long. The book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible is dedicated to that idea. If you ever want a real uplifting read the book of Ecclesiastes. It's the Groundhog Day of the Bible, all right? King Solomon says, I'm king. I can do whatever I want. There will be no consequences. And so he pursues unbridled pleasure. He accumulates all the knowledge he can, all the sexual pleasure he can, and every other temporary pleasure the world offers. And then here's what he says he concludes after having all of this. Ecclesiastes 12:8. He says, everything is meaningless, says the teacher, completely meaningless. Everything is meaningless if there will be no consequences. If this moment is all there is nothing after this, there are no consequences. If you can have as much as you want, whenever you want it, without any effect, it gets old very, very fast. I remember in youth ministry, the one thing all youth ministers have to be able to do, you've got to be able to eat pizza, because you eat pizza all the time. We would have it 3 or 4 times a week because it was easy to get, it was cheap, most of the kids liked it, the church paid for it, and so you were eating pizza all the time. Now, I can very rarely eat pizza. We have pizza at our Connect time, and I always know it's the 4th week, and I'm always going like, okay, pizza. I got to be able to choke down some pizza. It lost its appeal because I had it all the time. I'd have it whenever I wanted it. Anyone ever work at a fast food restaurant and now you can't eat there? And you go like, I still smell like that food. I just can't do it anymore. Netflix researchers found that those who binge watched entire seasons reduced their engagement in the shows, and they rated their enjoyment of the show less than those who watched weekly episodes when they had to wait, when they couldn't just have it all right away. Video game companies discovered very early on that games with unlimited resources and powers quickly required them to show effort and limited the amount of resources they could get. Who live together before marriage report less satisfaction in their marriages than those who wait until they get married. Not being able to have whatever we want, whenever we want it, without consequences, is actually a blessing of God. We think we want it. We think it would make life better to have no consequences. But what we end up finding out is God blesses us by not letting us have whatever we want, whenever we want it, without consequences. It actually helps us enjoy what we do have. So after having some time living with no limits, with no consequences, Phil actually doesn't become more satisfied and happy and content. I want to die. I want to live in consequences where I can have everything. We think that's what we want. And when Phil gets it, all he wants to do is die. His days become and attempts at himself. It actually results in one of the funniest scenes in the movie when truck, and I make sure his friends are as he drives it over a cliff. Bill Murray actually had a real groundhog on his lap during that scene. It bit him. A series of rape shots and stitches for that. So you'll notice if your explosion happens when he drives that truck off, I swear you can hear that groundhog scream when it hits the ground. So we'll watch it again, okay? But Phil is going, I just for what they can do for him. He does that by demanding from others to see him as important, demand and admire him and love him. He often half-heartedly pretends to be nice to people just to manipulate them into being nice to him. Years trying to look like everything his producer in that great scene where he's trying to and she slaps him at the end of every. At one point she says to him, "Is this getting what you want? Getting what you want?" But then there's a day where he kind of seems to give up on trying to prove to Rita that he really is living. He's trapped, and the way about how he has spent days learning everything from everyone. He starts knowing these completely. To the let anyone day. He becomes so focused on helping others that one day when he approaches to go get coffee with her, he refuses because he's got to go help people. He moves beyond pleasing himself. He moves beyond love to being totally about serving others. And he's not going through the motions. He's truly changing. He's becoming a. And suddenly you see that love is not the Love that doesn't expect anything. It just does what's best for someone else. It just does what's best for someone else. This is a very clear biblical parallel. Take a look at Romans 5, verse. Sending Christ to die for us while we were still sinners. Sending Christ to die for us while we were still sinners. That verse highlights God's agape love, his unconditional. That verse highlights God's agape love, his unconditional love for 13 through 7. 1 Corinthians 13. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not others as valuable for about himself. Another great echo of need in the Bible. Matthew 10:39. If you cling to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for me, you will. But if you give up your life for me, you will find it. Fear God and obey his commands, for this is everyone's duty. Just for everything we do, including for ourselves. We just have no confidence, but that path is a complete dead end. True life consequences. God designed us to live for something greater than ourselves. You're new to the idea that overwhelm you. Instantly become instantly. He didn't transform overnight. He started with gradually learning to love, serve others, to forget about himself. God doesn't expect from us instant perfection. He invites us into a relationship where he says, I will help you grow day by day by day. Starkly, ask God to others. Eternal meaning to others. But do get unlimited to start. But that is we have there is we and that gives meaning to life. That gives purpose to every moment. Being wise enough to know that we need structure. We need consequences to life. Every day counts. That how we treat.
I was breathing but not alive. Failures I tried to hide. Freedom is all. Freedom is all that I know. Out of the into your glorious day. This day. Glorious day. Lost, but now I see 'twas rain of endless be my shield and cold, as love, amazing grace. sun.
One of the things we do at Meridian Point and at all of our congregations every week is we take communion together. We try to follow what the early church did when we decide how we do things. And one of the things we saw is every time they gathered together, they took communion together. And the point was to remember how much Jesus loves us through his death on the cross. That he has taken our sins, that we are forgiven, and we remember his death until he comes again. And so at this time, we have tables in the back, we have tables up front and on the sides, and what we do is we ask you just to head to the outside, grab some juice, grab the bread, come back to your seat, and just spend some time in prayer thanking God for all he's done for you and how much he loves us.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures and I will go into your glory. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a few cold red grave of the darkness.
Good morning. It's Groundhog Day. Unfortunately, church can be involved in those things. And Avonlea Blackburn has been in mission.
Emily Blackburn, and I have been in missions for the majority of my life. It all started when I was 7 years old. Gospel shared to them. Missionaries from different organizations, from different walks of life, and we made a list. I want to be a missionary. in missions trip. Sure, and language. Sure, I had the right education. I went to school. I got a basic Bible degree. I wanted something else, creating disciple making. And my job as part of the communications team is to help those 300 missionaries. We are in charge of helping all the media side, if that's newsletters, if that's prayer events, if that's testimonial videos. We are the people that you called to get those done. And that way they can solely focus on spreading the gospel. Because, again, being a missionary is hard. You're learning a new language. You're learning a new culture. You're learning a new governmental system. And sometimes you have to do all of that on top of keeping yourself and the people that you're sharing the gospel to safe. So if we can take any of that worry off your plate, we are here to do it. And that way they can share their stories and share the impact that is happening to where they are. We can take that impact and tell the supporters that are helping out all these missionaries, and I can tell those stories to you. So if this is something that you're interested in, please tell those stories to you. So if this is something that you're interested in, please scan that QR code so I can tell you the stories that are going on. If you have any more questions or like more information, I have a table out there in the lobby. Please come and find me. I love the table out there in the lobby. Please come and find me. I love